Hello everyone, my name is Ivan, and a friend asked me to look over her resume and just to kind of spruce it up, clean it up, maybe get a good objective statement going. I decided to record it for her benefit, and occasionally I get contacted by friends to review their resume. Part of it is going to be we're going to talk about the content, but also want to show you some of the tips and tricks in to make things a little easier. All right, let's get started. Let's just do a quick overview. First thing I notice is it's on 2 pages, but there is not enough content for 2 pages. Lots of empty space here. We really want to get these references onto the first page, because if you don't have enough material for 2 pages, you really don't want to take all that space up. The other thing is I don't see education here. Now, I know her personally, and I know that she finished high school and took some college, but someone who has never met her, I might wonder whether she dropped out of high school, right? Or if she has a GED or something like that. I don't see that. I don't know any different. I might just pass it on if I have someone that has education. This review pane allows me to drop comments. So I could actually say, double click on references to select it. I'm going to do a new comment, and I'm just off on the margin there in the gutter, I'm going to say, should be on same page. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put a placeholder. So that was my first thought, but maybe after we add education, maybe it will be on the second page. We'll see. The other thing I want to point out, these style headings up top are actually very, very useful. And it's a way of formatting your document based on a template. And the great thing is you can configure them however you want. This particular one isn't used correctly. You can see that they're actually subtitle emphasis. This is a heading in my book. And why is this important? Those flags are actually, they show up in the navigation pane. So if you're looking at this, you see work experience and you see references. Well, if this was formatted correctly with correct headings, then you'd actually have a structure here. And maybe it's not that important for this particular document, but say if you're writing a 20-page paper, this is great. You can actually generate a table of contents based on that. One more thing I want to point out here is you see this references, it's a proper case, and work experience is all title case. You really want to keep the same style. Actually, let me do this. I'll put a comment in here. We'll come back to this stuff. Should be on the same page. Should be title case or uppercase. Okay, let's point out a couple more things. The right margin. You see it's actually not justified. You see that? Like if I put another space here, it hangs over. And I can see that she has formatted it using the spaces. There's a little feature, I guess, in Microsoft Word. It's called the tab stop, which allows you to format it correctly every time, and I'll show you how to use that. Now, so you can of course format an entire document using spaces, but you will have little quirks like this, where like if I say Jane Doe, now I have to reflow the entire document. Say you're writing a book, or say you're writing a manual, or say you're writing a paper. You don't want to actually have to reflow and adjust everything every single time. A couple other things. Let's actually read the material. Work experience. Actually, this needs to have an objective, really. And that was one of the things that she asked me to help her write. I'm going to put objective here. And we're going to mess with the formatting later. But I'm going to say, let's do a little to-do. Okay, work experience. So Brookhaven Hospital, April 2016 to current, behavioral health technician. Provide accurate document of patient behavior or incidents. So I'm going to go with, this should probably be documentation. And I am adding these comments for your benefit, but I will review it with my friend, and just to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting something. I'm pretty sure this needs to be documentation. Check vitals. Help brain traumatic patients with basic daily needs. I feel like this probably needs to be brain trauma. I don't know the industry terms, so it's something that I will review with her. References. Let's take a quick look at references. References generally are just someone you call, but what I'm seeing here, because I know two of these people, this guy is me, and I know this one is her longtime friend, and I actually worked with Jolie before. But when I look at this, okay, licensed therapist, programmer, intake coordinator. How does this relate to the work being done? Therapist, okay, I could see that because mental health, they have therapists. And intake coordinator, I assume it's someone that she has worked with. But what company? So you really should include company here. And there's an example of that spacing problem, because now I have to go and fix it. Let's highlight this because we want to come back to this. Licensed therapist, and if you worked with a person, you really should include that kind of a professional relationship. Although this one, just based on what I know about my friend, this is a friend, so we can probably say personal friend and licensed therapist. Now, programmer. What kind of programmer? In a hospital setting or a medical thing, this is a mental health facility, is there a title called programmer? Is this an IT programmer, or is this someone that actually writes curricula or like procedures? Who is this? And what is your relationship to this person? I would go with software engineer and friend. That's the other thing, is software engineering is completely unrelated. So the fact that they're a software engineer, now you could probably get some clout for certain things like doctors, like those kind of respectable positions. Like if you were to get a referral from like a senator or a state representative or your mayor, oh yeah, you would definitely plug that in. That holds some clout. So I don't know if it's even worth the bother, but that's just something that you should consider whenever organizing this stuff. Let's talk about tab stops. You have to display the ruler, and the ruler I think is turned on in the layout or view, perhaps. Ruler, yes. So you can find the ruler here. And then basically you double click on this little gray area right underneath, and you can create a tab stop with a right alignment. So whenever you do that, you could move it to the end, and now when you hit tab, it is right aligned. And you can actually see that there's just a slight difference in the alignment between the space positioning that we used before and the tab stop. And the great thing about this is I could keep writing here and it does not interfere with my document flow. Let's do the same thing here. So now I'll do another tab stop, right align, move it over to the to our gutter, do a little tab, and that's it. Now, before we do the rest of these tab stops, I want to point something out. This has a 1-inch margin, and I do not like having a second page that has just like a tiny little block. I would rather it be on one page so that it doesn't look fluffed. Because if I look at something and I'm like, unless it's a very technical position, they have a lot of experience, they have a lot to say. If it's stuff that like I could look at a heading and generally understand what the heck it's going to be. Mental health technician, admissions, health technician. In this field, when you're applying to a specific role, people will know what those titles mean. So unless you had very specific, like special projects, like this stuff like check vitals and whatnot, yes, you could put that on here, and actually I think that's great. But generally speaking, they will know what that means. So it has to be like to the point. Some other types of positions where you're actually working projects independently or managing projects, it's great to actually showcase that. And if there's something you're proud of, you should certainly showcase it. Okay, so basically what I was leading on to is let's change the margins to be narrow, so 1/2-inch margins instead of 1-inch margins. So change the layout of the document a little bit. We could do a little bit more positioning stuff, and our references will be on the first page also. Even with the new education section, I think we can make this work. Now you can see that it preserved my tab stop based on what we did earlier, but now I could simply move the tab stop over to that margin, and it will move my my text over. So let's go ahead and do that on this final one. Oops. So right alignment. Okay. All right, let's talk about this formatting stuff. I actually like this caps format. So let's make that, oh, it's already our heading 1. So this one was used as a heading 1, and here we changed, this was changed to subtitle emphasis. So I should just be able to click on heading 1 and it reformats it, but it did not. So somewhere along the line, they clicked heading 1, they started with heading 1, and then they changed the format. So the great thing about this is you could actually right click on this and you could say update heading 1 to match current selection. Okay, so now you could see that references now got that line underneath it. And if I click on here, you can see that it's size 16. Now you can see that the case is still title case, it's not caps. A great thing about this is you could go up in here and you could say modify, and you can change, you can actually change all the formatting, and I think that it's under this advanced font menu. So you can say all caps, and you can see that references automatically caps. So this was, somebody probably used the caps lock, which is fine too. Now these other subheadings, I kind of like this style, kind of like grade. We could of course use all black, but all black is kind of boring. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of keep this color on this style. It's just something that kind of distinguishes your resume compared to somebody else. So with that in mind, I am going to make this style the heading 2 and convert this to heading 2. So I'm going to say update heading 2 to match selection, and then I'm going to make this heading 2. Same thing here, we could say heading 2. Take a look at what's going on the left here. We are actually getting our headings, we can see the structure of the document based on the type of headings we use. So there we go, heading 2. There's the other one. You can go in, and here's another subtitle emphasis. I'm going to make this style the heading 3, so the italicized, and we're going to say update, modify. I'm going to make it italic, make those heading 3s. Okay, so great, we have a structure on the left. Phone number, absolutely required. Email, absolutely required. Address, not so much. No one's going to your house, but you definitely want to include the city. So, of course, use left alignment whenever it's needed, and then you could use tab stops for anything else. The objective is an introductory paragraph. It's just a way of, it's your opening statement. For the sake of layout, let's see what it looks like if I put objective here. Heading 1, we get that style automatically. Objectives need to be targeted, and actually your resume needs to target the industry at a minimum, but also the company that you are wanting to work for. So you have to consider what your objectives are, and but also work it into what the company's objective is, because this is your sales pitch. Now, the email I got from my friend said that she does not want to be a technician in a hospital anymore. She wants to go back to admissions or desk work. So this is a great time to introduce yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and write it in first person. So if I was to describe my friend, I am a social and customer service focused person. Customer service is very, very important, and people understand that, employers especially, that customer service is the face of your company, and it's not limited to external customers. It's not limited to your patients. So you could bring up that I am a social service focused, both internal and external. That's the other thing, is some companies have a really great face on the outside, but internally there's a lot of bickering and like infighting. People do not treat other departments as customers, and that's really what they are. So if you're in admissions, you are facing the customer, you have an external customer position, but you might also, like for example, transcribed therapist assessments. That is your customer, if you will. Your customer service is towards the therapists. Let me reword this slightly different. I am a social person and understand that both internal and external customer service is vital to a company's and inter-department success. Okay, so there's a statement, but I am a social person. I don't want this to come across as someone who is, is just going to hang out by the water cooler all day. So there should be a follow-up statement. And the other thing is, and understand, a lot of people understand a lot of things. A lot of people know what they should be doing. Belief, when you say you believe something, it implies conviction. So I could say, I believe that both internal and customer service is vital to a company's success. And interdepartment. I'm overemphasizing a little bit the internal customer service part, like my understanding that internal customer service. So I'm just going to cut that out to a company's success. I am diligent, hardworking, and my goal to be the best admissions person, staff. So this is, what am I providing to you? What am I committing to? I mentioned that you want to have a resume for every type of industry or every type of position you apply. On the one hand, well, it's not technically cheating. Is it manipulative? You be the judge. I don't believe so. It's if I knew that somebody had 5 resumes, to me that implies that, hey, they are in fact diligent. They are in fact conscious of customer service to jump in and basically tailor their resume for that particular position. So, no, in short. Okay, let's get rid of this. What is this? Get rid of this space. I don't like doing like positioning using line breaks. Really, if you want to change, like for example, if we wanted to put a little more gap here between the objective and between the experience and actually this references, if we wanted to put a little more gap there because it looks a little crazy, you go back in here and say you modify, and then you go over to format paragraph, and you could say spacing after. Let's give it 6 points. So you can see your entire document was reformatted with a little bit more space. The other thing is, like, I feel like this particular heading, the subheading 2, we could probably use slightly less space there. So I could go into heading 2, modify, format, paragraph, and then after, let's do 0, see what 0 comes up with. Because the heading 3 may also include a little bit of leading space. You know what? I'm okay with that. It's part of the subheading. So, great. Let's fix these, get those tab breaks going, tab stops rather. Okay, and then there you go. Okay, same page. Great. We have that going for us, so we're done. The other thing, I want to put an education thing here anyway, but we're now running a little bit, running a little bit low on space. We can do this. We could put a lot more of this on the same line. So we could say, there we go. Now let's format this. This was part of our title. So Jane Doe at Gmail. We can go in and we could actually reduce the font size for this. There we go. The other thing is I want to modify this so that it is in fact that blue color that we were working with before. And the thing is that resumes tend to be printed, so we could actually go in here and remove the hyperlink. Let's do a tab stop to the right. Okay. Oh, and here's the other thing. You can see that there is like a larger gap, or at least I can see that there is a larger gap between these. There's a difference between the paragraph break, which is your enter key, and then there is the line break, which is actually the shift enter. It's kind of like the paragraph spacing is like a space and a half, and the line break is just, you know, just one line. So I could actually go in here and say shift enter, and you can see it's more condensed because it's using line breaks instead of that. So now that gives me a spot here for education. There we go. And now we could say to do high school. You would add any college or anything like that here. I do want to include education because of what I mentioned earlier. You don't want to leave it open to interpretation that you never finished it. So that's why we're doing that. And a comment about education. If you are more proud of, or rather, if your education is more relevant to the job you are applying for, you should probably include it first. If your experience is more relevant to the position, then your experience should be listed first. By convention, it seems that references are always listed last. So that's the format we're going to use. And it almost feels like a waste of a heading here, but education is important. I'm looking at this now, and I feel like this can be reduced more, maybe even 12, like that. Let's get my zoom. Okay, it's certainly legible whenever you are looking at this document, especially when you print it. And really, honestly, you should print this. I mean, on the screen, it's great. You should print it, and look at it before you hand it over, because, I mean, sure, a lot of people will look at it digitally, but what tends to happen is it gets printed off, and people look at it kind of in a meeting scenario. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna say I'm gonna go in here and say software engineer and personal friend. All right, and really, I would put myself last. Shift, enter. There we go. What is more relevant? Like, unless somebody knows me personally, or if like I'm a known name, which I'm not, it doesn't really mean much. Not to be too pedantic on the layout of your document, but that is something you really should stress, because you don't want your layout mistakes to distract from what you're actually trying to say. So definitely keep that in mind. And how was this particular border? There it is. Let's do a slightly thinner border. So I'm going to make this a 1 point, and we're just going to apply it here. There we go, because it seems a little fat. There we go. I like it. So before I let you go, I just want to say that yes, there was a lot of technical material here about Microsoft Word, but that's the kind of stuff that sets you at a different level compared to other people, because you can actually use a lot of these techniques inside like Microsoft Outlook, so you can distinguish yourself in just your regular email writing, and you could save these templates for later, so you could essentially have your own style, your own stationery that you could write. Maybe you won't be a technical writer, but your stuff will just look generally better than other people's. It's a matter of first impressions. Your resume is your first impression, and first impressions tend to have a halo effect. You make a good first impression, that tends to stick with you and your interactions with this particular person. So great, you have a great resume. Next step is to have a great interview. And the other thing is, sometimes you have multiple interviews. Put on that nice shirt, put on that lipstick, do your hair, do whatever. And it's not really for a matter of yes, you want to make a great impression, you want to be aesthetically pleasing, right? But also that confidence. If you know the only thing you have to worry about is yourself, you don't have to worry about, oh, did I tie my shoes, all that. You want to walk in and not be distracted by anything like that. So your focus is just to dazzle them. And of course, once you start working, you definitely want to do an excellent job on the first, like those 3 months, 6 months, a year. Maybe not quite that long, but once you build up that halo effect, you're a rising star. If you have a bad day, maybe not intentionally slack off, but you're just not your best, you tend to be forgiven. And just keep that in mind. And I wish you the best of luck in your career.